What's good, people? Hope you all are doing great. PUBG Mobile released a new update recently, and the one thing that I like the most about it is the introduction of Canted Sight to the game. This is MGSTATS, and today we will discuss everything related to the Canted Sight. First of all, let's discuss what a Canted Sight is. So, Canted Sight is a new scope for weapons in PUBG Mobile with a secondary scope slot that allows players to quickly switch between equipped sights. Basically, you will be able to equip two scopes on one gun at the same time. One scope is already mounted or fixed on the Canted Sight known as the side scope, and the second one will be a slot where you can put whichever scope you desire, which is known as the main scope. You will be able to pick the Canted Sight on the map just like any other item. So, now that we know what a Canted Sight is, let's discuss how it works, how you are going to operate it, and all that good stuff. When you open your settings, you should notice an option named Canted Sight button in the basic tab. If you can't, then maybe you need to update the game. Now, there are two options here. One is tap to use scope, and the other is tap to switch scope. So let's understand both of them. Option 1 is tap to use scope. If you select this option, then you will get a button on your screen, which will allow you to open the side scope of the Canted Sight. And the function of the scope in button will remain the same, and it will open the main scope that you mount on top of the Canted Sight. As you can see here, I have selected tap to open scope here. And when I tap on this button, the side scope opens. And when I tap on this button, which is the scope in button, the main scope opens like it used to do before. The second option is tap to switch scope. If you select this option, then you will get a different button. This button will act as a switch, which will help you toggle between the main and the side scope by tapping on it. If the button shows the main scope, then when you tap on the scope in button, it will open the main scope. Tap on it once, it will switch to side scope. Now when you tap on your scope in button, the side scope will open. As you can see in this example, I have selected tap to switch scope option. And this button here is showing main scope under it. Now if I tap on the scope in button, the 3x scope or the main scope will open. And when I tap on the new button once, it starts to show side scope under it. Now if I tap on the scope in button, the side scope will open. And if I tap on the new button once again, it will switch back to main scope. In the tap to switch scope mode, the crosshair changes to indicate which scope you have selected. If the main scope is selected, then the crosshair remains normal, and if the side scope is selected, then the crosshair takes an X shape. This detail is also noticed in the tap to use scope mode when closing the side scope. You can also customize your side scope crosshair by going to the scope tab in settings. There is a new section named Canted Sight, and here you can set your desired color and shape for your crosshair in the side scope, just like any other scope. To sum it up, tap to open scope gives you separate buttons for separate scopes, but tap to switch button lets you use one button to open both scopes by letting you switch its function using another button. Hope that makes sense. You can pick whichever option you please. I would suggest you try both of them out once and see what works for you. One thing to note is that if you select tap to use scope, then you won't be able to open the side scope by holding. You will only be able to tap to open the side scope. So, if you like to use hold to scope, then you will not get that option on your Canted Sight side scope, but you still will be able to open the main scope by holding. Like, you can see here, even when I stop touching the screen, the scope remains open. But if you select tap to switch scope, then you will be able to open both scopes by holding, as you are only using the main scope in button to open both scopes. And that was it for the video, guys. Hope you found it helpful, and if you liked it, then like the video and share it with your squad if you want to help me grow. You can also subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you for making it this far, and as always, safe battlegrounds.